Hello, I'm Hayden Reed, and I'm here to talk about firearms and regulations, so let's get into it. Gun regulations mean rethinking about the Second Amendment and what it means for assault rifles today and, what it meant back then. Muskets that took a minute and 30 seconds to fire compared to a gun that can discharge 120 bullets in a minute. By any means, the government does not want you to be defenseless against a intruder into your home. This is not what gun regulation means. It means to keep public spaces safer and to crack down on gun regulations laws to reduce shootings. The problem with the United States is the high percentage of firearms in school shootings. Most of this occurs in heavy metropolitan areas and places where gun controls is very lenient, such as Texas, which I'll talk about later. And the main point I bring this up is because usually the people who commit these shootings are not, per se, bad people. Some of them are, some of them aren't, but mostly it is caused by psychologically ill members who obtain firearms easily in these states that don't regulate them, and then they cause problems later and cause shootings. These are all people on the left who have been shot specifically by police for being not trained well in psychological situations where rash decisions and emotion usually takes over. Will McCoy was shot in his car before he could even wake up. He was shot 50 times. Nathaniel Pickett was approached by a police officer out of nowhere, out of suspicion, and he was shot. And Jordan Edwards actually had a large protest against him, or for him, in front of the White House because he was a normal college student and he had been shot on campus. These are terrifying statistics from the year 2006 to 2007 that show an alarming amount of firearm homicides and firearm suicides. The surprising statistic about this is the youth rates at that time, which was 4,166 firearm suicides and 1,446 firearm suicides, all committed from the age range of 10 to 19. These were all metropolitan areas, and of course these statistics could be different for rural areas and small towns. I had gathered this information from the NRA website. The next thing is the causes, which of course is low regulation, as we can see from the state of Texas, with no permit to purchase, no regulation of owning, no license to own, and only handguns need permit to carry in public. Of course, increased access to firearms will cause shootings, and it causes high risks for people in public places. The next one I have is California. California is a very democratic state, and they support gun regulation and policy very heavily. As you can see, you need a permit to purchase firearms. Of course, all of these policies are heavier in cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco. Registrations of firearms in cities is heavy, as I just stated, and there's no licensing to own, which is fine. And the permit to carry openly is for handguns only as well, and that fluctuates greatly in the cities. The solution I have for this is heavier regulation in metropolitan areas. What defines as a hunting rifle is very gray, and I believe that needs to be cracked down on. Just because a weapon has wood on it does make it a hunting rifle by today's standards, but I believe that should be changed later. To reduce shootings in cities and to reduce death tolls, I believe police should have a more of a responsibility for the lives that they take, and I believe that the police should have more psychological training for situations to reduce emotional responses and rash actions that cause these shootings. Ammunition is a big one. ammunition needs to be reduced in quantity, and also it needs to be taxed heavier and priced higher, so that people will not obtain ammunition for bulk values and just value it um, less than their firearm. Um, Guns need to be registered for all kinds of uses, and they need to be explained what they're going to be used for. Civilian use of handguns, I believe, should be outlawed in public, unless you take an extensive course and psychological background checks and everything else. Metropolitan areas, of course, are a very large black zone for firearms, because metropolitan areas are very population dense and have a larger scope of harm that can be done. These are just my references. This was my speech on gun control. Thank you for your time.